You want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day? My book, The Mirror Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you. Listen up. You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together. What you get is the mindset, the method, the philosophy, the book, the show known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, why professional sports is not for everybody. Now, this is one that I've talked about this in different ways at different times over the years, even before this show even existed, but specifically going from my background to people that I've come across in the basketball world. For those of you who don't know, I played pro ball overseas for a 9-year period. But in the basketball world, I've had conversations with players who, for whatever reason, they just weren't quite enjoying their professional experience as much as they expected that they would, or players whose professional experiences didn't last as long as they thought they would. And I've seen it happen to several, and it isn't a bad thing. Like, if professional sports, especially if you're playing abroad, any sport, I mean, I've heard from some athletes who aren't basketball players who play abroad, but I've heard mostly from basketball players. It's not necessarily a bad thing if the pro sports experience is not for you once you get to experience it, once you feel it, once you see it, touch it, and get to know exactly what it is. Doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It's just the game. It's just the way that it works. Everything in life is not for everybody. Even if you think it is not until you get into something that you realize that it just might not be for you. Even though from the outside looking in, things are a lot different when you're on the outside of the room than when you're inside the room. I think everyone here who's been outside of a room and then got in the room, you can 100% attest to that. Whether you enjoyed it or you didn't, you know it wasn't exactly what you thought it would be. And today what I want to talk about is why this happens for some athletes and what you need to know about it. Now, those of you who are not athletes and you're not planning to become a professional athlete, you should still listen to everything I'm going to say here today, because the stuff that I talk about here today, as I talk about on every episode of this show, even though I may have a topic that is specifically targeted to a certain audience or a certain person or a person who's in a certain role at a certain job, the principles will apply to anyone in any job, in any aspect. Even if you don't have a job right now, you don't know what you're going to do. The principles I'm going to talk about here, you can utilize in whatever you do. And if you happen to know someone who is a professional athlete or is thinking about becoming one, or maybe trying to become one, because if you're only thinking about becoming one, you're going to have a hard time. So if you know someone who's trying to become one, then definitely have them listen to this 2 times so that they understand everything I'm going to say here. And I'm speaking specifically to athletes who are from the United States, who come from the college experience, but then you go towards the pros and maybe it's not what you thought it was, or maybe you're going to find out that it's not what you think it's going to be. And that's what I'm talking about here today, really. Point number 1, today's topic once again is why professional sports is not for everyone. And you don't have to play overseas for this professional sport. It could be in the United States as well. Number 1, college sports. Let me tell you something about college sports. I know there are a lot of college athletes who are listening to this right now. We have some people who work in the college athletic world, some people who participated in college sports. Maybe you didn't go pro in sports. You went pro in something other than sports, as the NCAA predicted. College sports is fun. That's one thing I can say about college sports. When I think back on my college athletic experience, it was just fun. Yes, there are hard days. Yes, there is practices that you don't want to be at. Yes, you may deal with a coach who's kind of a dick or a bitch and you don't really want to handle them, or you wish you had a different coach, or you don't like how the situation went. But overall, in general, playing college sports is fun. The whole experience of being in college and playing a sport is pretty fun for several reasons. First of all, you're on a college campus. A college campus is a pretty fun place to be for 4 years, or if you're on the 5, 6, 7 year plan, however long it takes you. It's one of the most fun places for anyone to be when you're a student there. I don't know about being a teacher, but at least for the students. It's a big space. It usually looks pretty good. I've never seen an ugly college campus. College campuses usually look good. They keep the grass cut. There's no trash on the ground. The people respect the space. The buildings are nice and shiny, at least for the most part. Not every campus, but you know what I'm saying. It's a big space. There's one big community, and everyone's around the same age. Everybody's there for the same reason, to go to school. You have a little bit of autonomy, maybe for the first time in your life. You do have responsibilities, but not really, and not much. Whatever responsibilities you have usually is just go to school and get good grades. For the most part, a college student doesn't have any other responsibilities. If you play a sport such as basketball or football, especially, and those are two that I'm really thinking about when I'm speaking on this topic, everybody knows who you are, especially basketball, because there's only 15 people or so on a basketball team. Usually they're pretty tall. And since there's only 15 of you on a campus of, who knows, 2,000, 5,000, 50,000 people, everybody knows you. You stand out. If you're a black male playing a college sport, football or basketball on a college campus, you may be, depending on the school you go to, you're being exposed to white girls who have never been around black men before, and vice versa. You ain't never been around them for the first time. Listen, for those of you who are listening to the show for the first time, listen, we talk about the things that I know that you're thinking, but you may not say out loud. Or I will say them here on this show. So anyone who is, I don't think anybody could possibly be offended by what I just said, but I want to make sure I'm saying that so you understand what type of show you're listening to. We will bring these things up. And these are real things that happen. And I'm a black man. I'm with the Penn State. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying these things. All of your teammates, back to my point, they are all around your age. Everybody's between, 18 and 22. You all have a closely shared experience. You're on the same team every day. You all are taking classes. You all got the same job, quote, outside of playing the sport. You all got the same job of going to class. Y'all eat food at the same cafeterias. You all live in this little community here that's this college campus. Even if it's a huge campus, it's still a pretty small enclosed community that is like a sheltered, cocooned place just for the people who are going to school there. You all have the same challenges of you got to keep your grades up, and you all got to deal with the same coach. You're all around the same age. You all came from the same situation before, which is high school. You all trying to go to the same situation after. Most college athletes, especially if you're on scholarship, you have some idea of possibly going pro in your sport if you see the opportunity for it. So the experience is very closely shared amongst athletes. So you have that camaraderie, even if you don't connect with your teammates on any other level. On those levels, you have all of these things that are these mutual experiences. You are growing into adulthood, but you still get helped and nurtured kind of like a child. When you're on a college campus, this is your chance to experience semi-adulthood, which means you have a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of responsibility, but not full autonomy and not full responsibility. You probably don't have bills. You often don't have kids. You don't have a mortgage. Anything that you have, most of it you don't even have to pay for because you're playing a sport and you're going to school full time, which means you probably ain't got no money. So all this stuff sets up a college experience it's almost like the perfect experience. I remember when I was working at Foot Locker the year after I graduated college, and I was working at this place called Granite Run Mall, which is south of Philadelphia. The mall, actually, last time I was in Philly, actually my father had told me they shut the whole mall down. They're rebuilding it, so who knows? It may be reopened now. It's a whole new shopping experience. But when I was working there was a Foot Locker in the mall and there was a kids Foot Locker. So I started out working at the main Foot Locker to learn the whole assistant manager job. And then once I had learned it pretty well, since that Foot Locker already had an assistant manager, they transferred me over to the kids Foot Locker that was right there in that same mall, and I was an assistant manager there. And one of the employees there was this dude named Jamal, and he went to Westchester University. And I believe he was a senior at Westchester. So he and I spent many a day in that kid's Foot Locker just talking to each other because there were no customers. We're in the middle of a mall like on a Wednesday afternoon. Any of you ever been to a mall on a Wednesday afternoon or like 2 in the afternoon? It's kind of depressing because nothing going on and you're just standing there with a referee outfit on. So me and Jamal would just be talking, and he was a college student. So he always said this all the time because he would tell me about his experiences running around that college campus with girls and stuff like that. He wasn't even an athlete. But one of the things that he would say is, look, man, as soon as I get out of college, Dre, all I want to do is live in a college campus setting for like 2 more years, and then I'll be ready to go out into the real world. And the reason why he would say that, and I didn't even have that in my notes, but I thought of it when he would always say that, because everything that I just told you, there is no better setup than the college experience, where you have enough freedom to do what you want, but you don't have enough responsibility for it to really matter on a whole lot of levels. The whole situation in college, since you have access, especially when you're an athlete, you have access to facilities, you have tutors, you have food, you have people whose full-time job is to help you succeed. The whole situation is set up for you to win. I mean, that's what it is like to be a college athlete. Any college athletes who are listening to this, if I got any part of this wrong, you let me know. The whole thing is set up for you to win. The teachers, the tutors, the coaches, everybody's job is to help you be successful. That's it. If you fuck up in college sports, it's because you personally have made some mistakes. The situation is not set up for you to fail. The situation is set up for you to win. So if you're messing up in some way, you are fucking up. It does not get any more custom made than a college athletic experience. So any of you athletes, let's say you're in high school, or any parents listen to this, you have a high school athlete child and they're trying to decide whether they want to pursue playing college sports. I suggest that they do, because there's no more fun experience than being a college athlete. It's custom made for people to succeed. Trust me. Now, with all that being said, all right, I laid all of that out for y'all to understand why being a college athlete is so fun and so great and such a wonderful experience for anyone who's ever played college sports. And any of you who has, you can concur everything that I just said. However, that's only half the story, because remember today's topic as we move into point number 2 is that professional sports is not for everyone. So now let's get into what professional sports is like, because it ain't the same. Professional sports, ladies and gentlemen, is not like college at all. The only similarity between professional sports and college sports is that you're playing a sport. The only similarity between my experience playing college basketball and my experience playing professional basketball is that there was a basketball court. Everything else was completely different. There's a huge age and background diversity amongst you and your coworkers, because now they're not fellow student athletes, they're coworkers. All right, and they may treat you just like a coworker. How do you treat your coworkers? Those of you who work at an office building or something like that. Some of you barely know. Some of them is just high and by, right? They have their own lives outside of that, and y'all don't have any other shared experience besides the fact that you work at the same job. That's how it is in pro sports. People have families. Maybe you have a family and everybody else doesn't. Maybe they have a family and you don't. And even if everybody has a family, they're more focused on their family than they are hanging out with you. Everybody is spread out. So when the workday ends, you may not see your coworkers again until the very next day, until the next practice, until the next workout, until the next road game. Nobody, when you are a professional athlete, nobody is checking on you to make sure you are taking care of yourself. See, in college, you had a tutor to make sure that you were going to class. You had coaches. You had assistant coaches from the coaching staff of the team that you were on, making sure that you are passing classes so you can stay eligible to play that sport. Well, let me tell you something. In the professional world, even though there are no classes for you to take, nobody's checking on you to make sure that your mind is in the right space, that your mental game's in the right space. If you're losing confidence in the pros and your performance starts to suffer, they're not going to make sure that not going to have the team, mental game coach come hunt you down and make sure that you're all right. Now, if the team happens to have one, you can take advantage of them, but you got to go find them. They're not going to come looking for you. And if they don't have one, then you're on your own. You might have to go get the Mirror Motivation book, or you have to call somebody like me to help you out. But again, you will have to go do it. They are not coming to you like in college. I know there's some college coaches who listen to this show. You have assistant coaches whose very job it is to check up on your players and make sure everything that they're doing outside of basketball is on point. True or not true. In the pro world, ain't nobody doing it. Nobody's checking on you. So if your mind's not in the right space, it's just not going to be in the right space. If you're not taking care of your body, you're not eating the right foods, you're not drinking any water, you're not stretching or foam rolling after practice, you're not getting in the cold tub or the hot tub, you're not doing anything to make sure your body's in the right shape for the next practice and the next game, or that you heal quickly so you can play in the next game before they fire your ass. If your lifestyle needs are not taken care of, meaning let's say you're overseas and you're homesick and you don't know how to connect your computer to talk to somebody, or you don't know how to get I guess these days you could call straight from your phone, but if you need to get a phone card or something like that, or go to an internet cafe to talk to your people back home, there is no one checking on you to make sure that stuff is taken care of. You got to figure all of that out on your own. There is often less to be lost for a professional basketball team in getting rid of you, unlike in college where, so let me say that, let me word that better. In the professional world, if an athlete is not doing their thing on a team, the team doesn't lose much by just getting rid of you and replacing you with someone else. They could do it literally in one day. Get rid of you, bring in another player. I've seen it happen. In college sports, I know there's some coaches listening to this, and there's some athletes listening to this. If your coach gets rid of you in the middle of the season, usually they can't replace you with somebody else. They can't just bring in another player right there in the middle of the season, at least not anyone at your talent level, usually in the middle of the season. So in college, if they get rid of you, they just lose it. They can't replace you with somebody as equally talented. In the pros, they can. Therefore, in college, they will do much more work to keep you there, to make sure you stay locked into what's going on with the group, rather than just dropping your ass and replacing you with somebody else. But in the pros, they'll drop your ass because they can easily replace you. In college, they can't. So it just is more incentive in college for them to look out for you and make sure everything's good. You understand? You can't just grab somebody in the middle of a season in college because you got scholarship counts and all these other things, all these other rules going on in college sports, at least as of this recording. In the pros, you are on your own. And if you fail, you fail. If you think you're the best player on the team, then the game comes and you play fewer minutes than everybody. I have experienced this myself personally. There's nobody to complain to. There's not going to be a huge social media hashtagging, attacking the coach because they didn't put you in the game. All people are going to see, they're going to see the stat sheet like, damn, you played 2 minutes. What the hell happened? You don't know. They don't know. And ain't nobody saying nothing. And guess what? You better be at practice tomorrow morning because we got 2 of them. 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And the day after that, and the day after that. Oh, you don't like it? Okay. We'll send you back home. Is that what you want? That's how it is in the pros. I've seen it, and that happens in every sport. In college, it doesn't happen like that. In college, you got this whole support system set up to make sure that you're all right. In the pros, there is no support system. You are your own support system, if that. And if you fail, you fail. That's what it is. Point number 3. Today's topic is why professional sports is not for everyone. College sports, ladies and gentlemen, while it is a commitment, it is definitely a commitment to be a college athlete. And that commitment does require time, of course. I consider playing a college sport to be a diversion. That's the way that I would describe it. It's a diversion. Yes, it is not a full-time job. I've heard athletes say that, but I don't agree with that. Being a college athlete is not a full-time job because a whole lot of the work that's part of a job, I've said this many times before, is the stuff that happens off the clock. When I was a professional athlete, the majority, I won't say the majority, let's just say half of the work was the stuff that happened when I wasn't even doing anything team related. Nothing that the team required. All the team requires when you play a professional sport is practice, which might be 2-3 hours a day, a game, which will be 2-3 hours in a day. Then you have some workout or something that you have to do outside of that, was maybe another hour or 2. You're looking at maybe a 4-hour workday on the hardest days. That's professional sports. When I was in places where we practiced twice a day, it was pretty much 90 minutes twice. That's at the most 4 hours a day. The rest of the work is the stuff that you had to do on your own. Training to stay in shape, recovering your body, getting proper rest, staying off of your feet, all these other things that you had to do. Eating the right types of foods, going finding those foods, talking to the people that you need to talk to, taking care of your lifestyle needs. If you have a family, if you have kids, if you're overseas and your family's in the USA, sending money back and forth, making sure all these things are going on. All of that is part of the job of being a professional athlete. That's the job part of it. In college, all that stuff is taken care of for you. In the pros, you got to do it on your own. That's why I say college sports is a diversion. You got all these things set up to help you have to do only 2 things. Go to class and play a sport. That's all you got to do. All the other things are set up in such a way that you can't mess them up. Any of you who lifts weights, I remember when I first started lifting weights. I was 19 years old. It was the spring semester of my freshman year of college. So the basketball season ends in like late February, early March, right? So you still got March, April, and a little bit of May of school, right? So I had finished basketball season, and I used to go to the gym, and I'd be working on my game. This is at Penn State Abington, the school I went to my freshman year. And I'd be in there playing ball with just random clowns who would come off of campus to play ball. Our campus was so small that even the basketball team players never came in the gym. After my freshman year season ended, I never saw any of those guys ever again in person. I never saw any of them. They never came in the gym ever again. They weren't that serious about ball, but I was. So I'd be in there every day, and whoever came in there, I'd just play. But there was this one dude, I wrote about him in my book, By a Game. He was from New York, and he saw that I had skill. He saw I had talent, and he said, yo, stop playing with them. Come in the weight room with us so you can get your body right. Yeah, you need to get stronger. So he's the one who introduced me to the weight room, and him and a couple other guys in there, these big black guys who could lift heavy weights. They had me doing tricep, what they call them, skull crushers, triceps, had me doing bench pressing, curls. They were showing me how to do all these free weight lifts, but they never quite explained the technique of the lift. They would just tell me to do it, and they didn't know how to explain it. And so I don't fault them for that, but I really appreciate those guys. I don't even remember their names, but I really appreciate those guys because they introduced me to the weight room. And once I started to see some results, they came very quickly because I never lifted weights before, I was in there on my own for the rest of the summer. So I would come up to that campus, as I talked about in my book, Work on Your Game. I would come up to the Abington campus and lift weights every day by myself and use the basketball court. But I didn't know how to do these free weight lifts. And so when I would try to do some of them, I realized, first of all, that I'm not strong enough to do a lot of these lifts, at least what I saw those guys doing. And I didn't understand the technique of doing the lifts. And mind you all, this is before the days of YouTube where you could just pull up on your phone the technique for a lift. This is where either you knew how to do it or you didn't, or you had somebody who could show you. I didn't have any of those things. I didn't know how to do them. So I defaulted to using the machines. And there's a point to me telling you all this. So once I started using the machines, I would do like the chest press machine and the leg machine. Every machine that was in the weight room, I would use. And I started getting really good on these machines. I was like pumping this weight, and my muscles were getting bigger, and my body was starting to look more impressive. And people started to comment like, yo, you've been lifting. They could tell that I've been lifting. So I'm thinking that I'm strong as hell. And then finally, when I remember I got to Penn State Altoona, my sophomore year of college, and I would go in the weight room there, and there were some guys there who could actually explain to me and show me how to do these lifts. So when I started doing these free weight lifts, and that's the weights that's like the bench press and the squat and the deadlift and curls and things that aren't machine lifts, I realized that I'm like, hold on, how can I not lift the same weight? I used to do the chest press machine at Penn State Abington with the machine, and I was pressing 200 pounds. I'm like, yo, I'm strong as hell. I could bench 200 pounds, right? So then I get to the free weight and I try to put 200 pounds on that bench. That shit wasn't happening. Any of you who lifts weights knows what I'm talking about. So what I realized was that when you lift weights with a machine, the machine stabilizes the weight for you. So all it does is isolate one particular muscle so you can lift with that weight. But when you use a free weight, your body has to be the stabilizer for you. So therefore, if your muscles around the weight, let's just say bench press, when I was using the machine, my pectoral muscles could push 200 pounds because the machine stabilized it for me. But when I did the free weight 200 pounds, now I need my abs, my core, my back, my biceps, my hands, my wrists, my shoulders, my forearms. All of those muscles had to work to stabilize that 200 pounds. And I learned very quickly that they were not strong enough to do so. I'm saying all of that to tell you this: being a collegiate athlete is like doing a bench press on a machine, because everything around you is stabilizing the situation for you. Being a professional athlete is like lifting weights, the bench press with a free weight. You have to do all the stabilizing for yourself. That is a hell of an analogy, and I just thought of that here. That was not in my notes. But see, this is the kind of skills you develop when you do this type of stuff every single day. But I digress. College sports, as I said, is a diversion. We're still on point number 3. College sports was never a drag to me. I never looked at, oh man, we got practice again today. I don't feel like being at practice. I don't feel like going to this workout. I don't feel like going to this game. I might have thought of that a little bit, but I never looked at it like, man, this is like, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. I never had that thought in my mind. Now, while I'm sure there are other athletes who have had that thought, is not because the actual act of doing the stuff is so hard. If you felt that way, maybe it's because you weren't just not that much into the sport. Maybe that's what it was for you. Again, not a good thing or bad thing, just what it is. Professional sports is a goddamn job. Any of you has played a professional sport, it is a job. It is not a diversion. It is not all fun and games. It's a job. And I talked about this in episode 1105. What makes the job a job? Capital J, capital O, capital B. Again, episode 1105. There are days in professional sports where you will not feel like being at work, but you have to be there. There are days in college sports where if you're not doing your thing, or things are not working out, or you're not seeing eye to eye with your coaching staff, they're not going to kick you out of school what's going to happen is, and the coaches who are listening to this, you tell me if I got this right. You'll yell at a player. You'll try to talk to a player. You'll bench a player so they're just not getting into games anymore. You'll do all of these things to let them know that you're not feeling them, but you're not going to fire them. You're not going to kick them out of school. In the pros, you'll get fired. In the pros, they will send you home, and the whole situation is over. That's the difference between college and the pros. The stabilizer. The machine stabilizes you in college. In the pros, there is no stabilization provided. You had to give it to yourself. And if you don't have it, well, you're going to drop that barbell with 200 pounds on it right on your chest. And that'll be that might lead Sports Center in a bad way. Point number 4. Today's topic is the difference between college and pro sports and understanding why professional sports is not for everybody. Here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. For all you college athletes, high school athletes, college and high school coaches, parents of amateur athletes who are considering becoming professional athletes, here's the bottom line that you need to understand. All right, remember what I'm about to say to you. You can like a sport and play it successfully in college. To play professional sports, that same sport professionally, you have to love that sport and the process behind it, because it is not always fun. You could go a whole season in professional sports not playing as much as you thought you should play. The coach not explaining to you why you're not playing. No one offering you any support for the fact that you're kind of pissed off about not playing. And you're better than everybody else on the team, but you have no idea why you're not playing. And nobody gives a damn that you're not playing. This might happen for the whole season, not one game, the whole season. And nobody's going to come out in vocal support of you either. And when you're walking around town as a professional athlete, especially when you're not playing or when you've been having a bad game, all right, you ain't a star no more. You're not a star when you're walking around there and you ain't been getting in the game. Nobody even knows who you are. Unlike on a college campus where everybody looks up to you just because of the fact that you're on the team, even if you ain't doing anything. In the pros, you might not have many friends to talk to when you're not feeling so good, or any friends to hang out with after the game. You might have a great game and nobody to hang out with after the game to revel in the fact that you had a great game. You don't have any friends around. You're back in your apartment by yourself. Maybe you could get on Skype or something and talk to somebody back home, but they might not be awake yet. So you had this great moment you can't even share it with anybody, or you have a down moment and you can't talk to anybody. And you still have to show up the next morning and do your job. That is not always fun. And it's not for everybody. So those of you who are thinking about playing a professional sport that you're playing in college right now or in high school, take heed to everything that I've said here in today's message as we recap the topic, which is why professional sports is not for everyone. All right, the game is the game. It doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with you once you find out that this game may not be for you. If something I said here today tells you that the game is not for you, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Everything ain't for everybody. Some things are good for you for a season, and then you move on to something else for the next season. No, not many of us do the exact same thing all the way through for 20, 30 years straight. There are a few exceptions, but you're not them. All right, be who you are. So if it's not for you, it's not for you, it's fine. But I'm explaining to you the reasons why. Point number 1, college sports is fun. It's supposed to be fun. Being in college is supposed to be fun. All right, athlete or not. It's one of the most fun places anybody can be. It's a big space, one big community. Everybody's the same age. Everybody's there for the same reason. You have autonomy, but no real responsibilities. You get exposed to people that you've never been around before. If you're an athlete, everybody knows who you are, especially if you're black and tall. Everybody knows who you are. You're walking around. You are a star. Even if you're the person at the end of the bench, you're a star just from being on the team. You're growing into adulthood, but people still help and nurture you as if you are a child. You have access to facilities, tutors, food, people whose full-time job is to help you be successful. That's how it is in college. The whole situation is set up for you to win. Therefore, if you are a collegiate athlete and you are fucking up, that means you are fucking up, because the whole situation is set up for you to win. So how are you possibly losing? Point number 2, professional sports is not college. There's a background in age diversity. People have families. Everybody's spread out. You may not see your coworkers, your teammates, but they're coworkers now. You may not see them except when you're at work. Nobody's checking up on you as opposed to in college. Your mind, your body, your lifestyle needs. It is less risk and less cost in getting rid of you, unlike in college. So they will much more quickly and easily get rid of you if they need to. You are on your own in the pros, and if you fail, you fail, and nobody gives a damn. Point number 3, college sports. While it is a commitment, it does require time. It is a diversion. It is not going to be a drag for you most of the time unless you just don't like the job, the game. Professional sports is a job. Episode 1105, what makes the job a job. Professional sports, again, is like lifting a free weight, while college sports is like lifting on a machine. You could do 200 pounds on a machine, but you can't even do 135 on a free weight. What's the difference? The stabilizers, everything that goes around the job, you are responsible for it in the pros, whereas in college, you're not responsible for it. And it's not until you get to the pros, not until you lay down on that flat bench, that you realize, oh shit, maybe I'm not as strong as I thought I was. Point number 4, you can like your sport and be successful all the way up through playing it in college. To play professional sports, you must love your sport and you must love the process behind it. Think about a guy like Tim Tebow. Everybody knows who he is. He played at the University of Florida, a legendary quarterback in college, dominated in college. Went to the pros. People are already kind of poking holes in his game, saying he can't throw too well. He's not going to be that successful. But then he gets to a team and he was actually successful for a little while. And then his success went down a little bit and he bounced around with, I think he went to a couple of teams. And then eventually he just said, you know what, forget it. I don't want to play pro football anymore. I'm going to go do my religious thing. And now he's like a professional speaker, motivational speaker, and he does his other things business wise. I think he went and played baseball. I think he still plays baseball. The thing is, here's the reason why I'm bringing up Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, I think he liked football enough and he was good enough to be a wildly successful collegiate football player at the highest possible level. He won a national championship, didn't he? I believe he did. But when he gets to the pros, it became a little bit more of a job, simply because, first of all, not everybody has the same interests. Not everybody has the same common shared experience. And it got to a point where the game wasn't coming so simple for Tim Tebow, where Tim Tebow was going to have to maybe join a team and be the third string quarterback or the second string quarterback, or bounce around and get these lower paying offers where he could see from the inside looking out, look, if I just step outside of this little space of NFL football, I can go do all these other things where things may come a whole lot more easier for me. And I'm not saying that to say that he was looking for the easy way out. What I'm saying is it came very simple for him in college because, first of all, he was really good. He was on a really good team. He was in a hell of a program and he was having success. And when he got to the pros, he had some success. When that success went away, he could probably see this is going to be a drag. Or for me to make this work in the NFL, it's going to be a drag. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a job. Capital J, capital O, capital B. And now I could do a job doing a whole lot of other things because I'm Tim Tebow. I have these other skills. I have all these other opportunities. Maybe this is not the thing that I want to be doing. And he went and found something else to do. And this happens with a lot of athletes. And I'm using Tim not as a cautionary tale. I'm using Tim as an example. Listen, you may be that person. It may be great for you in college, but you may get to the pros and realize, you know what, this is not for me. Maybe I could go be a businessman. Maybe I could go be a motivational speaker. Maybe I could go be a teacher. Maybe I could go start a YouTube channel. Maybe I can go be a trainer. Maybe I could be a coach. Maybe I can do something other than this. Maybe this is just not the path that I need to be on right now. It worked for me up to this point. Now it's time for me to go this direction. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need to know what's going on. And then you need to, as we talked about in yesterday's episode, the CEO version of you needs to know when the employee version of you needs to quit a job and find a new job. So you see how all of this material connects together? This is an amazing show. Now, I'm telling you, if you want to get access to everything that's ever come out here, all you need to do is listen to what I'm about to tell you next and work on your game. Dre all day.